I'm your host, Michael Anthony Giudicissi, and this is One Day Only.
Old West legends return from the grave. Questions will be answered. Truth will be revealed. In one final interview, and for one day only.
Doc? Hey, handsome. Got any silver? Hey, you think you get something better there? Are you looking for me?
I don't know. Who are you?
I'm Kate. Big Nose Kate.
No way. Yeah, be comfortable there. Gosh, I've got so many questions for you. I wasn't expecting to meet you. Can I,
Well, a real gentleman offers a lady a drink first before asking questions.
yeah, barkeep? There you go. You're welcome.
Where did you get this one from? This is Doc's.
I don't think it's Doc's. I think that maybe it's just one like his.
Maybe cheers.
Enjoy.
Long time.
Do you know where you are?
I have no clue. This is the birdcage. It looks different. But this is not Tombstone.
Well,
Where am I?
Well, the most important thing is when you are. And
What do you mean, when?
You passed away in what year? Do you remember? 1927?
I don't remember much. I just remember being kind of short-breathed and tired. My arm hurt and
Yeah. It was in the
things went black.
It's in the 1920s. The year is 2019.
What?
The year right now is 2019, and I've brought you back from beyond, wherever you were, for
You mean
one day.
I'm dead?
I don't know how to answer that. But you're here now, so I'm hoping that we can talk and maybe you can answer some
I don't
questions.
look dead, do I?
No, you look wonderful. I mean,
Thank
you know, in a professional sort of way. So that's not Doc's cup. I have already talked to Doc.
You have?
Yeah, it was a couple months ago at a place not far from here.
Where is he?
Where did you come from?
I remember all my life, and I remember I was short of my 90th birthday, and that's about the last thing I remember. After that,
Where have you been
Black.
since then? Nothing?
I have no clue.
No bright lights?
No,
No angels singing?
no,
Nobody dancing around fire with a pitchfork?
no, but
that's
peaceful.
probably
It
good.
was peaceful, actually. I fell asleep, and that's the last thing I remember, except I was hurting. My chest was kind of tight, and my arm was hurting, and I couldn't breathe.
Your chest looks just fine now, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I don't know your name, handsome.
My name is Michael. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, Michael.
Yes. And again, thanks for not shooting me.
Close call.
Wherever you came from is where Doc came from. But he could only stay for one day. And he answered a lot of questions, but he also raised a lot of other ones about you and your relationship with him and your life even before coming to Tombstone. So I'd like to talk about that if you're open to it. This
Go ahead.
device here is called a camera. You had cameras back in Tombstone. Wasn't C.S. Fly a photographer?
Yes, I remember him, but that camera was the size of a stagecoach, actually.
Well, things have changed a little in the last, 120 years or so, 140 years. But that is a camera, but it's recording a moving picture and the sound of us. So we'll have a record of this when we're done.
I'll be done.
Okay.
Need a sip of that for that.
Okay. I've always wanted to, is it okay to call you a prostitute?
I'm a shady lady who was always proud of being one.
So you don't mind?
I liked it.
Okay. I've never interviewed a prostitute before. And I would love to get some details of that if I could. I think people that would see this later would be fascinated.
Depending on the details, it might cost you a little bit more silver, but go ahead.
We don't really use silver anymore.
You don't?
No, we use paper money. Yeah, there's,
I
yeah,
prefer the silver.
well, I'll see what I can do. Tell me about being a prostitute. What's that life like? Is it sad? Is it wretched? Is it lonely and horrible? Or am I off base?
It depends. There were prostitutes, fallen angels, pretty unlucky because they had to sell their bodies so cheap in the cribs.
How much is cheap?
Cheap is 50 cents, actually.
50 cents for
50 cents for a
the-
Native American, Mexican girl in the cheap cribs down Tough Nuts, 6th Street in Tombstone, for example.
the whole experience for 50 cents?
Yeah, well, if you call it the whole experience, a 2 minutes thing, with not even taking your boots off. But we had different shady ladies. Us girls worked in the brothels or at Birdcage, for example, and we were capable of asking $20 to $25 a night in silver.
$20 to $25 a night?
Yeah, mine earned about $6 to $12 a week, 7 days a week, back-breaking shift.
So this is a $50 bill.
Does that equalize as $25 in silver?
We don't really use silver as a currency or even a standard, so it's probably worth a lot more. So maybe we could negotiate something less. Well, we're still.
I keep it here. Just
Okay.
make sure you don't lose it or change your mind.
Okay. Well, but I would get at least two. Would I only get 2 minutes? No romance? Do we tell each other
Well,
about
you're
our
a nice
past?
fellow. You're kind of handsome. You get probably the whole night for it.
Really?
Of course.
Okay.
It's
well,
my choice. That's the difference between the high-class brothel fallen angels and the cheap crib girls. We get to select.
50 cents,
50 cents.
$25. I could spend 50 nights with a Indian woman.
Well, if you
Or
don't
one
mind
night
the
with you?
difference in their looks and the difference in their quality, of course, and if you're here to offend me and doubt my qualification,
No,
dear.
I'm not.
Okay.
No, please don't mistake. I was just curious as to what the difference in the experience was.
The difference was we were independent.
Okay, so you could do what you
Town
want.
women looked down on us. But they would have been astonished to see how many hours their also beloved husband spent in our arms. They were not at home. They might go to church with their town wives, but right after church, they were with us.
Is it true that some of the Earp men would frequent prostitutes?
I can tell you, when I started this trade, I started it in St. Louis.
Mhm.
And my mentor, she was a lovely French lady. Well, I was born and raised in Hungary. I speak 4 languages fluent, including French.
You speak English wonderfully.
I speak English, Hungarian, French, and Spanish. So she was my mentor, Blanche AAA.
Your prostitution mentor?
Yeah, she taught me everything I had to know.
I never knew there was such a job.
In St. Louis, where she ran a very successful brothel there.
You must be a teacher for everything, huh?
She was like a mother to us. And one day I would walk into her private living room and she was hunched over a table and her lover killed her.
Oh.
And he told me she has asked for her death. I remember I took a whiskey from her pitcher and I said, like, she hasn't, but you have asked. And there any sheriff around here?
No, I think we're alone except for...
I shot the guy, that's why I'm asking.
You did?
Well, he asked for it. He shot my mentor, I got even for her. I did it for her.
With that gun?
It was a different one, but it did the same. It fulfilled the purpose, let's put it that way.
So you're not against taking a life?
No, why should I?
Just don't take mine, please.
I still owe you at
Yeah.
least one night of life.
One night seems fair. You have the gun. So, did you meet the Earps before?
I
you
met
moved
them
to Tucson?
later. I had to flee St. Louis, of course, because I shot a person there, and I moved to Wichita, Kansas.
Were you indicted for that shooting?
No.
You just packed up and left and nobody came after you?
I packed up and left, and as a matter of fact, I married a dentist. His name was Silas. Had a baby boy with him, and there was a disease with fever. I took them both.
They
So
both died? How old
They
was your
both
baby?
died. A couple of months.
I'm so sorry.
So they both died, and I was left again without a husband. I was left without a penny, so I had only one choice, to go back to the trade, but not to the French quarters of St. Louis, because I shot a man there. So I moved to Wichita, Kansas, and I started to work in another house of ill fame. The person who ran it was a woman named Bessie, and she was James Earp's wife.
She ran her own brothel?
She ran her own brothel, and she was sister-in-law of Wyatt Earp.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you heard of Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So the people always accused us of having an affair. And,
You and Wyatt.
Me and Wyatt. Matter of fact, I met him years later in where was that? Fort Griffin, Texas.
Did you have relations with him? Nobody's listening. It's really just you and I.
There's an old saying in Europe, is like a person of style sometimes simply enjoys and keeps her mouth shut about it. I might have a nosy nose, but not a talkative mouth.
It sounds like you're saying yes. But
Well, a woman has her ways of saying yes and no without uttering a word, dear. Don't you think so?
apparently...
Handsome.
Oh, thank you. No, I was going to touch you, but you're still holding the gun, so I think we'll
It's holstered.
wait on that.
There are more dangerous parts of a woman than a gun.
I've learned that, actually.
Good.
Yeah, but particularly with... Oh, forget it. Anyway, so you moved on to Wichita. You were working
Yeah.
with...
I
is it
worked
Bessie?
there under the fake name of Katie Elder
Katie Elder.
because I did not yet dare to use my former name.
Did anyone ever come for you from that killing?
No.
Never.
I changed my name, I changed the state. So
And that's all
nobody.
it took in those days.
It was easy to get away with the killing. And I didn't feel like I committed a crime. I took revenge for a person that took me under a roof, fed me, and taught me everything.
vigilante justice, maybe?
It was on revenge and justice.
Okay.
Justice in the loaded barrel of a gun.
Okay. Okay, so
I moved to Wichita, Kansas, worked there, and met James worked there, of course. And then later I heard that the girl of ill fame could make a good income in Fort Griffin in Texas, so I moved down there. And I met Wyatt there, and he introduced me to his friend, Doc Holliday.
I've heard of Doc Holliday, yes, of course.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Yeah, he was pretty well known in his day, and he's become even more well known afterwards.
He is?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
didn't just forget him.
No, you'd be amazed at how many movies or moving pictures, how many books, songs, hundreds and hundreds written about the Earps, the Doc, and
He would have probably liked that in his own sarcastic way, but
when I talked to him, he did say that he didn't want people to forget him, and he was happy that they remembered. And I want to talk to you a little bit later about an incident in Tombstone that happened, but we're not there yet. So from Fort Griffin, then where do you go?
well, Fort Griffin was a interesting place in the sense Doc used to play poker there.
Mhm.
And I got introduced to him, and I got interested in him. He would play poker with a well-known bully called Ed Bailey.
Mhm.
And Ed, he was a troubleman. He was a troubleshooter. He caused fights and arguments wherever he set a foot.
Mhm.
And Doc warned him repeatedly not to cheat at the poker because it was absolutely not possible to watch the discard. He would do it again and again and again. And Doc was not the kind of person to be provoked too often.
Even as kind of weak and frail as he was still a...
Well, you don't have to...
Okay.
He was sick, yes, but at that time, his sickness had not pursued that far. Secondly, he was extremely educated. Doc was very smart, and he could outwit you just with his words. And he warned him. And we were all at the saloon, and Bailey pulled a gun, but Doc was faster, and he stabbed him in the guts with his knife.
Why didn't he shoot him? I always wondered. Too
Sometimes
messy?
a knife is much faster if you know how to use it. Doc didn't run away because for him it was clear self-defense because the guy pulled a gun against him.
Mhm.
However, he got arrested. Well, Fort Griffin at that time, they didn't even have a jail. So they locked him up in the hotel. And I saw
Room
the people...
service too?
What is room service?
Oh, forget it. Sorry.
You're asking weird questions. So I saw this mob forming, and I was pretty sure they were gonna pull him out of the hotel and hang him up.
Mhm.
So I set fire into one of the old sheds there.
You set fire to it?
Yes, of course I
To
did.
distract the mob?
Yeah, everybody ran for buckets of water and ran, and I got myself a gun and I walked into the hotel room and threatened the guy who was watching over Doc Holliday and more or less bailed him out.
Broke him out, huh?
I broke him out, and
Wow.
I had 2 horses waiting outside behind the jail, and we rode the hell off as fast as we could.
Now I know why it costs $25 a night.
Yeah.
Probably a 50-cent prostitute's not going to break me out of jail if I'm going to hang, right?
50 cents prostitute wouldn't even know how to ride a horse, first of all.
Okay.
Well, maybe if she was Indian, but the thing was, what I'm trying to say is you want to talk about Tombstone. As a matter of fact, if not for me, Big Nose Kate, Doc would have never been in Tombstone.
Oh, really?
He would have been on a neck party there, like they would have hung him.
Necktie party.
A
Let me
necktie
ask you
party.
this. You have a little nose. How did you get the name Big Nose Kate? Doesn't seem fitting.
People accuse me of being nosy. in a sense, caring too much about other people's business.
Is that true?
To a certain extent, when it was for the good sake of achieving something or protecting dog or anybody, of course. It's always good to be informed.
Interesting. Did you like the nickname or did you resent it?
I didn't bother, because actually I had a bordello in Globe, and I named it Big Nose Kate's.
Huh? We're not far from Globe right now. You should know. We're just
I
west.
thought as much because I see the cactus out there.
Yeah, I don't know that your bordello is still there. Probably not. And I don't think prostitution is legal. Well, I'm sure it's not in Arizona. So
How boring.
whatever deal we make, we just keep it between us. Literally. Got it. Okay. Okay. Did I read right that you at one point went to a convent and were going to become a nun?
We come from Europe.
Yes.
I was the eldest child of 11.
Wow.
But my father could afford to have many kids because he was like a well-known doctor. He was appointed to be the personal surgeon of Emperor Maximilian I, who ruled Mexico.
Wow.
So we moved to Mexico when I was 12. 3 years later, they executed Maximilian, and we had to flee. My father took us all the way to Davenport, Iowa, and 3 years after moving there, he passed away. And 4 weeks later, my mom passed away first, and 4 weeks later, my father. We were all sent to foster care.
How old were you at that point?
At that point, I was actually 15, and I was sent with one of my brothers to a German attorney named Otto Schmidt. He was abusive. Not so much to my brother, but to me. So I ran away, and I hit on a steamboat, wanted to go to St. Louis. I mean, don't forget, I spoke French, fluent. And I was on the steamboat, and the captain caught me, and he took a pity on me, and his name was Fisher. So he allowed me, under his family name, to enter a convent to get some sort of education.
How long did you go to the convent for?
Only 2 years. I ain't made for obeying.
Oh, clearly, but how do you make this switch from going to a convent and pursuing studies to be a nun to being a $25 a night prostitute?
The easiest way to explain that, I had no penny in my pocket.
You had no choice. Was there not another job you could get, laundry or?
Laundry is paid like 50 cents too.
Oh.
I had no choice, but I realized that I was liked among the men, and I was educated. I spoke the different languages. All I needed was Blanchet's teaching, and I made myself quite a name. I was successful. I made a fortune later on in Tombstone. I earned a fortune in silver.
Do you have any idea over your career how much you might have earned? Thousands of dollars? Tens of thousands?
Worth silver, 10,000s.
Wow.
But I don't know how much it would be in your funny paper money.
Yeah, that's all we have. Sorry. I mean, we have coins, but they don't have any silver or gold in them anymore.
I made a lot of money. Even helped Doc at the end with my money.
Really? He wasn't too proud, huh?
He was so sick. Pride is the first thing that goes in a dying man.
Got it. So we were talking about you leaving Texas, and I'd like to get to the Tombstone days. I know you were there. I know you were involved in a lot of things that happened. I know that you were an eyewitness to things that happened. But you threw Doc under the bus. You said, working along with, was it the Cowboys? Was it Ringo that Doc had robbed a stagecoach? This is
No. It was different. And this is probably the only thing I regret about my own life. Doc, he would spend more and more time with the Earps, gambling the whole night, drinking with them the whole night. He would hardly spend any time with me anymore. And I followed him to Tombstone just to be with him.
Right.
By then I had established myself well in Tombstone, and he spent all this time with the Earps. Plus he had made himself a new friend called Pat Masterson. Mm-hmm. And he spent nights and nights out with them, and I admit, I was jealous.
Did you drink?
Oh, yes. We all drank.
Everybody?
Every soiled oaf and all the men for sure.
Okay.
But one night we had a real big argument, and he went to the saloon, and I was so upset, so I went to the Oriental, and I ran into Sheriff Bian. He's a coward. And he and the Oriental saloon owner, they talked me into drinking some more of this corn juice stuff, and I was already quite drunk when I came there, and I was fuming and I was furious, and I'm Hungarian, we have this temperamental thing, and so they talked me into signing a paper saying that Doc was actually involved in a stage robbery that took place that March, when they robbed the stage in Benson, mm-hmm. and they carried $26,000 in silver.
So are you saying he didn't actually do it?
No, he didn't. The stagecoach driver was killed, and one of the passengers was killed. But the bad part was, it was 4 cowboys, but one of them was Doc Holliday's friend.
Oh.
And that's why people assumed that he was actually somehow involved in that thing, and I was so ridiculously mad at him. I set him up, I signed the paper, and the next morning when I sobered up, I immediately realized what I had done, but by then it was too late. They threw Doc actually into prison, and he spent the night in Tombstone prison, and
he was upset about that, I remember when I talked to him.
He was so mad at me. He yelled at me. He bought me a ticket for the stage and sent me all the way back to Globe. He said, get the heck out of town. He didn't want to see me again.
Did you go?
I had no choice. Doc was mad. I had no choice. There was no way of talking him. I had to let him cool down. But I returned to Tombstone.
And when you came back, were things smoothed over?
It wasn't the same, because you see, I reversed the good deed I did in Fort Griffin. Right. I saved him once and I set him up. I betrayed him the second time.
Shouldn't that make you even? He owed you one.
According to me, yeah, but I think Doc was not that much into mathematics.
Got it. Hey, I have a question I've been wondering for the last hour or so, and if it's too personal, please don't answer, but did Doc ever have to pay you for your services?
No.
Never, not even once?
I loved him.
Were there any other men like that?
No.
He was the only one?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
I have to set this record straight. We were like cats and dogs. When we fought severely, loud, and not only verbally, but it was the love of my life. And this is how it's going to remain.
Were you the love of his life?
Sorry?
Were you the love of his life, do you think?
I don't know. We had a lot in common, especially education and background, so I would say every woman hopes so.
Okay, let's leave that at that. There was a lot of tension between the Earps and Doc and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
In Tombstone.
I came back to Tombstone from Globe. I ran my bordello in Globe, and I came back to see him a couple of months later, after things had cooled down a little bit. I remember we were at a fair in Tombstone, St. Augustine Fair, and we were in Tucson on October 20th for that fair, Doc and I. And there comes Morgan Earp riding into Tucson, asking Doc to help the herbs because they were getting threatened by the cowboys. Cowboys threatened they're going to kill the herbs, so they came for Doc to...
That's not a short ride on a horse from Tombstone to Tucson, is it?
No, it
100
takes a
miles?
couple of hours actually, and he came to have Doc joining them, helping them. Well, he was the friend of
Were
the
you
herbs.
okay with that, or did you think Doc should have stayed out of it?
Of course, I would have preferred him to be with me. Well, actually, Doc asked me to stay in Tucson for my own safety. But I'm as strong-handed like him. I mean, I'm stubborn as a minus donkey, and I came along. There was no way I would let my man go alone into a scene like that. So we both came down to Tombstone and checked into Fly's boarding house.
So he had C.S. Fly was a photographer and had a boarding house,
Yes.
and that was near an empty lot that was...
There was an empty lot next to it, and then there was some corral for horses next to
Was
it where the shooting
OK
took.
Corral?
Yeah, the shooting took place there.
I told you earlier about how much your life, Doc's life, the Earp's life had been scrutinized in movies and in books and by historians. You might or might not be amazed to know how much time, how much effort, how many people are intrigued by that short gunfight in the OK Corral and still study it like a forensic class today to determine who shot who, how many feet away they were standing.
Well, a lot of people have asked me, a lot of reporters, but they wanted to have all the details about that gunfight, all the details about my relationship with Doc, and I wouldn't tell them.
Why not?
Well, first of all, they didn't pay me.
Oh, does that mean that that's yours now?
Definitely, I answered a lot of questions for that. That's worth a night, what you're asking about all my lifetime, you know. But it's like that. I spoke about that gunfight 2 times in my entire life. I was one of the eyewitnesses for the trial against the Earps. And many years later, I wrote a letter to my niece, what really happened. Because I was an eyewitness.
Why did you write to your niece? What was the significance of her knowing what happened?
People had started to print little books, whatever, and Wyatt had already printed novel story about it, and I was keeping it to myself, but I wanted to set the record straight with one person I trusted from my family to make sure that Doc's reputation is not gonna get pulled through the mud, so to
Did
speak.
Wyatt's book get the story right?
I have never seen it.
Okay.
I
Don't
cannot
know.
say.
Okay.
All I can say is they were friends, Doc and Wyatt.
What happened that morning? From what I remember talking to Doc about a little, somebody was outside of your boarding house with a
Well, Doc
rifle?
was still in bed resting. He had gambled the whole night, and by that time, consumption has gotten him bad. You know, he was feeling very sick, and he rested. And somebody came to Fly's boarding house with a rifle in his hand, asking for him. And Miss Fly, she has sent him away because it was a guy with a bandage around his head. Later on, I saw the guy again in the gunfight, and I got to know that it was Ike Clandon who had been pistol whipped by Virgil a couple of hours before, and Virgil took his guns.
Mhm.
And
So, hang on. If Virgil was the one that pistol whipped him, why would Ike be going after Doc? Why not go after Virgil? I know they did later, obviously, but any reason?
Doc was very provocative. He always liked to tease people. He was never shy of a fight, and I can assume partly to his sickness. Maybe he looked for fights, you know. I mean, he watched his mother die of the same sickness, so you can imagine how he knew exactly where the road is leading to.
Right.
What I realized is he had a rifle with him, And I heard later on that he went to Spangenberger's gun shop and they denied to sell him another pistol because they saw the bandage and they knew he would be causing trouble if they give him a pistol.
So Virgil kept the pistol that he took from him? when he was
Virgil
in
kept it, and I saw the guy with the same bandage in the gunfight and he was unarmed. I don't know where he took the rifle to, but he had no guns, no rifle, nothing with him. He was unarmed in the gunfight.
That's kind of interesting because I do want to talk to you about Sheriff Behan, but Behan told the Earps and Doc that he had disarmed the cowboys, and at least two of the cowboys were armed, maybe even more.
How could they be unarmed? They were shooting back at the Earps and they were shooting back at Doc. Doc had a minor flesh wound on his hip when he came back into flies.
But I guess now I think about it and wonder if the only reason Ike wasn't armed is because he couldn't get a gun. Otherwise, he would have been.
Spangenberger denied him to sell him the gun because he saw the bandage and he knew that he had been knocked down, and he knew exactly whoever faces something like that and wants to buy a gun, it's a clear fact he is out for revenge.
So Ike was not obeying the law that day.
No,
he just was a victim of
never.
unfortunate circumstance and couldn't get his hands on a firearm.
He was a coward anyway, not very liked among. Well, you could say there were two sides of the town.
Right.
The cowboy side and the Earp side, and Doc Holliday and Pat Masterson, they were all kind of on the other side,
Okay.
the more successful side.
Would you be willing to share what you testified to and what you wrote in that letter to your niece with us?
Yeah.
Okay, before you do, I want to get behind the camera because I don't want to miss anything.
Okay.
And so I'm going to get out of the way
I'm
here.
going to miss your company next to me, but
Well,
go ahead.
I'll come back. And, this is not that remote of a town. You never know when somebody might
Oh, okay.
wander through. Are you going to miss my company or my money?
Well, I have your money already.
Good point. So, Kate, can you tell us what happened that day? I mean, we know somebody came to see us flies with a rifle. We think it was Ike. He was gone. How did the fight actually start? What did you see?
Doc got up, he got dressed, and he walked down to Fourth Corner, and he met with the Earps there. And they walked over to the corral, and I was standing behind the window, so I couldn't hear their conversation, but I saw through the empty lot right into the corral, and suddenly the shooting started. They were kind of like standing across from each other, and the shooting started. And I recall that Doc, he must have had a problem with his rifle. However, he threw it away and he pulled his pistol, and there was so much gun smoke, and I could hear the shots, of course, through the windows, and I just saw the man lying there, and I was actually, to be honest, I was pretty sure Doc gets killed there. Through all the gun smoke, I didn't see who is still standing, who is lying on the ground until the smoke cleared. And I can hardly express the way I felt when he finally walked through the door again. I was so relieved, but he had a minor wound on his hip, like a flesh wound. And he looked at that wound, and then he sat on the bed, and he kept on repeating, "That was awful, that was so awful." And
So it wasn't like
it was actually,
they weren't celebrating afterwards.
no, he seemed shocked. I mean, I was shocked. I didn't know who's going to be alive after that. And it took a couple of seconds, but for me, it was like almost eternity. It seemed like it never stops. And the next thing that happened is they wanted to arrest the Earps, as well as Doc.
Did they come to your home to arrest Doc?
They didn't come to arrest Doc, but they arrested the Earps first. And they wouldn't allow anybody to arrest them, and nobody dared to cross their path that day because people were dead on the ground. But people would be astonished the way Doc reacted. It was not the secure Doc Holliday that killed Ed Burley at the poker table. He was devastated. He was shocked. I do not think that he expected it to happen like that.
So it wasn't something that he enjoyed by any means.
No.
Wow. Who treated his wound? Did you do that?
Well, we bandaged it a little, and actually, knowing Doc, he rinsed it with a shot of whiskey. And the second
One for the leg,
he
one
got
for the
down.
mouth?
Yeah, right. That was Doc Holliday.
Got it. Interesting. After the gunfight, Wyatt Earp and Doc went out for some revenge because some of the Earps were targeted. Morgan was killed. Virgil was wounded. Lost the use of one of his arms, if I remember right. And from what I heard from someone, Wyatt was targeted too, but they just missed him. Was Doc ever somebody that they were looking to target, to your knowledge? Or you?
I know that Doc was called out by Ringo a couple of times, and Doc, he had nothing to lose. So sometimes it appeared he was angry at me for being healthy. He would get really mean to me. Okay, he hated the people for being healthy because he knew he was going to die. So he had literally nothing to lose. And he would provocate any kind of scene, any kind of gunfight, whatever. He was not afraid of dying. He was going to die anyway.
Gotcha.
So I do not know about the revenge. I heard about it, about the vendetta, but I cannot tell you anything about it because after the gunfight, I was the witness for the trial. After the trial, I went back to Globe. Don't forget, our relation had not been the same at that time because he still did not forgive me for setting him up with the stage robbery.
Whose idea was it for you to go back to Globe?
I thought the rarer I make myself, the more are chances that he would kind of like open up more towards me again. So I wanted to give him the opportunity to miss me. Plus, I had a very successful bordello in Globe, and you have to be there if it's your running business.
Sure. There's been a controversy about who killed Johnny Ringo because he did get killed shortly thereafter. Was it Doc? He's one of the people that's rumored to have done it.
Doc was never a kind of person bragging about things he did, and he would have told me because I have been with Doc for years to follow. And he never mentioned it. If he had, he would have told it to me in his normal sarcastic way. Mm-hmm. But he never ever mentioned a word about it. So I do not believe that Doc Holliday killed him.
When you left for Globe, was that the last time you saw him?
No, I made a couple of trips back to Tombstone, 2-3 trips, but then he left in '82. He left Tombstone because his lungs got worse, and he got word that the springs in Sulphur Spring, Colorado, are good for people with consumption and lung problems, so he decided to go to Colorado, and I encouraged him to do so. My brother had actually a ranch in Glenwood Springs, and he had a cabin up there. So we took Doc into that cabin. By the time Doc came to Colorado, he was broke.
Lost it all gambling?
He lost it gambling, drinking, doctors, Don't forget that after the gunfight, the Earps left, so Tombstone was not the same. The successful saloons were not the same. The mining kind of like dropped because they had floods with the groundwater coming up and then again and again. And the heydays of Tombstone were over, and people moved to the next gold rush town and silver boom town. It was like a wandering circus.
Got it.
And so he left for Colorado, and I wrote a letter to my brother Alexander to take him into the cabin, and actually I helped him out with the money he didn't have. He was broke, I had money, so I tried my best to get even for what I have done wrong.
Trying to make amends.
Yeah.
for the
Plus,
things
I
that you-
heard he was getting closer to dying, so there was no way that from 82 to 87 I stayed the biggest deal in Colorado.
Really?
Yes. I watched him dying. I was there.
So you were there with him when he passed away?
I was there with him, and my world stopped to exist the way I knew it when he took his last breath.
What's the last thing he said to you? Do you remember?
I didn't want him to leave. He was so young, and I believed we still have a future together. So many things, so many towns we could go together, and I was hoping that the sulfur springs would help him. And he finally checked from the cabin. He went to the hotel, which was like a hospital, when he was close to dying. And for me, all that was left of my life was the fact that I had to bury him in Glenwood Springs.
Do you remember the last thing you told him before he passed?
I told him we're gonna make it. And I hoped he heard the word we.
If you could say anything to him now, if there's some way he could hear you, is there anything you would want him to know?
I still believe we can make it. I hope he forgives me for setting him up. By now I have proved that I was a caring woman to him until the last moment. What would I tell him?
Well,
But
I don't know where it is exactly that you came from, but we probably should have you head back that way, because for sure your friends won't be here, and I don't want you to be sad anymore.
I don't want to be alone, and I'd rather be gone. I was alone for 60 years almost.
Okay. I guess we should get ready to head on back. Kate, before we go, I think there's probably one other thing we need to settle up. Obviously,
What's that?
we didn't get the opportunity.
Oh, wait.
But this is...
We still have time, right?
We don't have that much time. Not to brag or anything.
Well, the other girls took 2 minutes. What the heck? You have no idea what I can do in 10 minutes, honey.
You're not giving that back to me, are you?
No. That would be the first time in my life.
Can I say goodbye to my 50? Bye. All right, let's go.
Where did Doc's cane and his cup go? It's not there anymore.
Son of a bitch. What in the hell do they want with me now? Just leave me be. Kate? Is that Kate?
Doc! 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 You son of a bitch! Left me alone for 6 decades?
Something on your mind?
That pulled you out of Fort Griffin.
What are you...
I watched you dying. I took care of you in Colorado. That should be enough to make up for one setting up.
What am I here for? Another meal ticket for you?
I'm gonna get you, man. I'm gonna get you.
Get off of me now!
I love you. I loved you my whole lifetime since I met you.
You love me.
And go ahead.
Now.
Go ahead. Take me with you at least.
Where am I? What is this? Doc? Hey! What's this all about? You at it again? Where is this place? Doc? Hey! What's with the guns?
What the hell's going on?
Well, that's what I want to know.
We're just having a miscommunication. That's all.
You know,
I have a lot of those lately.
Well,
Come on, let's put the guns down.
well,
Mine's away.
I trust him. I trust you.
we'll give it a try for a change.
Doc, Kate, I hate seeing my friends fighting. Now, come on. Make up.
Make up with someone. Probably had another accusation against me about robbing someone.
Now, put your guns away.
Well,
Yes.